So, namaste everyone. Good to see you all here. So, the topic which we have posted there is on unveiling your true nature, Vedantic vision of self-realization. And we are going to talk about it in a little more different steps, what we call as prakriyas, different methods of knowing one's true nature, one's true self. And so this is the teachings of Vedanta, which is in the what we mostly regard as the book of Upanishads. But at the same time, we also take the help of many yogic practices and yogic approach. So the first part of what we had discussed briefly last time was about how we can know our true self, which one of the teachings related to Advaita Vedanta has come from what is known as the famous teacher in South India called Ramana Maharshi. So briefly, I thought I'll just start with a little bit of his story. How many of you are familiar with Ramana Maharshi? Okay, great. All right, so just to those of you who are not aware, basically, at a very young age, Ramana Maharshi was living with his family, and he was just a normal person. He didn't have any kind of spiritual inclination, nor did he have any great spiritual insight or teachings as such. But as he was just normally kind of going about his activities, at one point he lost his father, and so it made him question that what happens after the death of somebody. So is that person completely gone? So he kind of pondered that the body of his father is still there. All that I know about my father is kind of still there, but that person is not available for interaction, for transactions. So that set him thinking that what could possibly happen. So he kind of decided to do this, what is called as rigor mortis, like fake this kind of a death experience where he just kind of stayed in that death pose. I mean, like, what we call shavasana. And he tried to think that maybe something is happening and he's dying. So he tried to hold his breath and stop his thoughts. And of course, we say that these kind of things are not possible for anyone unless there is some kind of previous life, practices. But even if we don't believe in that, he had what is called as an immediate awakening experience, that he realized that the body as such is still there, but yet there is something else. The mind is kind of there, but still, if he stops the mind, he is still there. So that set him on the path of questioning of what he called later as who am I? And this is a teaching which is also very well known in Vedanta, what we call as the Panchakosha Viveka. How many of you are familiar with this term, Panchakosha? Okay, so I'm just going to quickly mention, this is a Sanskrit word, literally translated, it means 5 sheets or 5 coverings. What are these 5 coverings? We say that the self or the Atma or who we truly are is covered by 5 things. It's not really that it's covered, but it seems like it is covered by some things. What are these? The first is this body. So if somebody were to ask you, who am I? What could be our general answer? Yeah, we would probably say our name, right, or our identity, something like that. The other, at the second level, we might actually say that I am so-and-so, I am the father of so-and-so, son of so-and-so, and things like that, right? So these kind of identities that we have, whether it is a body or so, whatever we identify with, and that is related to this outer aspect of us, the physical body. Right? Now, does this physical body always stay the same? Do we know? It keeps changing, right? The body kind of undergoes changes. So when we are small, we had we didn't look the way we look now, right? The body has gone through certain changes, and also later on, like as we get older, the body changes its form. But yet, do we lose the sense of this identity just because the body is changing? No, right? So our identity remains the same. That sense of who I am, right, remains that same as the body keeps changing. So just like when we are going through our daily activities and all that, we might get occupied with some things, but yet for none of that time we lose our sense of I-ness. So we will not be aware all the time of our body, not always conscious of our body. Right? So even this experience of this body, what that I am this body. So all of you can just try this. Can you kind of feel within you that I am this body? This experience, just kind of, no need to meditate on that, but just kind of look in your experience. What makes me feel that I am this body? So this idea that we have, I am the body, what is it based on? So this kind of identity which we carry, this is what we call as just, it is a notion. It is this kind of like we have this notion that I am the body. But that sense of I, that sense of who I am, is it really just based on the body itself? No, right? So the same thing now, the next, this is the first kosha, which is the physical aspect of the body. The second aspect of the body is what we call as pranamaya kosha. This is the vital, or the 5 energies. Anybody familiar with this? Those of you who are doing the yoga course, yeah? Familiar? So there are these 5 energies in the body, what we call as prana, apana, samana, vyana, udana. So one is with all these different movements in the body, the breath, the inhalation, and there is also an energy which helps in the excretion, the elimination of all the waste of the body. So that is also like another prana. So second one. The third one is like what we call as samana, and then there is like the udana, vyana. I won't go into the detail, but like now these are like the digestive process, the blood circulation, and also like how I'm speaking now. There is some energy I'm using to express myself, use my speech, move my hands, move my feet, all this what we call as karmendriya, what makes all these activities, these movements. So these are 5 energies in the body. This is the classification that yoga has come up with. What makes this 5 things active? Maybe any of you have any things. What is it that keeps all these energies moving in the body? Anybody? Yeah. The breath, yes. The breath is one thing. Yeah. See, like when I want to talk or when I want to move my hand, so first I should have a thought, right? I should have a thought and an intention, a will. So this energy is to some extent is controlled by the mind. But some of them is not controlled by the mind. For example, the digestion process, it is not directly controlled by the mind. Even like your breathing, you can force your breath, but your natural breathing is not controlled by the mind. So there is a different kind of connection the body has, a different kind of things that keeps the body functioning. And this functioning of the body is what makes us realize that we cannot control everything just within our body itself, right? Like sometimes when people get ill, you can't completely kind of just will yourself back, right? Sometimes like you can, but not all the time. So this is where we say that all these pranas are also connected to deeper energies. And what are these energies? These are the energies of the cosmos. So there is something that keeps all the energies in the body and everything functioning together. But this is one of our covers. This is one of the sheets or one of the covers we have. Now let us try to explore, is this energies that control my body, that work in my body, can that be me? So the first point is, if these energies are me, then what happens is that I am limited only to that energies. Many times, like when you are, maybe you have just kind of woken up from your sleep, you're lying on your bed, you're not kind of moving around, but yet there is a sense of awareness, isn't it? That sense of you being present. You may not be moving, or you may not be talking or working, like how you were in meditation. When you're sitting in that meditation, your energies are functioning, but may not be that actively expressing itself, but yet you are aware. So this sense of awareness, this sense of just being in that state of awareness, that is not subject to these energies, isn't it? So this is what we call as the pranamaya kosha, all the different pranas. What a yogi is trying to do is trying to get in control of these pranas, these different energies in the body, for well-being, for the sake of also regulating different energies in the body. So that is a yogic kind of different yogic practices. And this is where we have practices related to Kundalini and related to all these things, where you try to get directly control over the different energies of the body. But there is some entity deeper who is able to control that. Right? See, for example, if you are driving the car, there is a driver who's driving the car, right? The car has the potential to move, but there has to be a driver who drives the car. Right? So who is this driver? So this is what we are trying to understand. There has to be a driver who drives that car. And similarly, this body, this energies in the body, there is somebody or some entity that is in charge, is trying to control those energies. Okay. Now the next thing is much more practical, which is related to the mind. So the thoughts. So we have different thoughts, right? At some point of the time we may be happy. Some point of the day we may be a little upset or irritated. And even now, like maybe some of us might be like enthusiastic, some of us might be still having, trying to understand. So we are all different mind and mental states and thoughts might be going in. Some of you might say, I understand, some of you may say, I don't understand. So all these are thoughts that are coming and going in us. Now the question is, those thoughts, is that who we are? Is the mind who we are? So generally in the world, we take the mind as who we are, right? Why? Because like when you're happy, you say that I'm happy. Or when you're upset about something, you say I'm upset. So we get completely identified with our thoughts, feelings and mental states, isn't it? So this is the strongest identification also. As much as we have body identification, we also have a very strong mental identification. We identify with our thoughts, our feelings, our emotions. Now here is where this understanding can help us. The thoughts that you had in the morning, or the thoughts you had, like, think of a time when you were upset over something, maybe 5 years back, 10 years back, something that you were really upset about. Now, over time, you have somehow moved on with life, like maybe you lost somebody, or maybe you lost some competition or something, and you were upset. Since then, you have moved on with life. So that identification you had at that time, where you thought like life can't go on, or this couldn't have happened. Since then, that identification of you has survived through that experience. So the thoughts on a daily basis are also like that. We have different thoughts coming, different mental states coming, but there is something in us that remains unchanged, untouched by all of this. And what is that remains untouched when we go through all these experiences? And this quest can actually help us on a very day-to-day level in a much more practical way, because when we go through different state of minds, when we get completely absorbed and identified with that, we are not able to function actively, because like some thoughts, or whether we are extremely excited or extremely depressed about something, when we get too stuck with that, we are not able to work objectively or in a detached way. Why? Because we think that experience or that mental state is who I am, and that if it doesn't change, I wouldn't be okay. So here is where that understanding that I am untouched by this experience, whatever that's going through, can be very helpful. It gives us a sense of objectivity. It helps us to be able to think and act in a much more productive way. And you can think of all the successful people in the world. Those who are able to stay calm in situations, those who are able to function objectively. We talk of some famous sports people, or people who have to go through, tennis, cricket, and all these sports people. So when when they're in that crucial points or crucial stage in that thing, their ability to stay calm, their ability to stay detached, sometimes it's naturally acquired. But what is it that allows us to acquire that is this ability to step out of that complete identification with the mind, with their emotions. And that gives us a sense of what we call as consciously developed through what is this knowing of our true self. So these are the three things. Of course, there are two more sheets. The other is called what we call as the intellect sheet, the Vijnanamaya Kosha. The sense which gives us, this is the sense of doership, the sense of what we call as the egoic identity, the one that I'm the doer. If I want something, I have actually written a book on this. That sense which gives us a sense of free will. At every moment in our life, we feel like we have this free will. And it is this covering, this sheet, which gives us that sense. So, for example, if all of you, if you were to kind of raise your hand, can you all raise your hand? Yeah. So this sense, of course, now I asked you to raise your hand, right? But it is your choice, at your discretion, whether to raise that hand or not. So this ability, this choice, we feel it is ours. So this is a big question again, do we really have that free will? Yeah, that's not the topic for today. I won't go into that. So that is the Vijnanamaya, that sense of free will. And the last is called as the Anandamaya, that joy sheet. Now the teachings of Vedanta are based on what is called as this this I am thought. So in all of these sheets we have this I am thought. So I am the body, there is a thought in that. And there is the thought in I am this energy, I am this mind, I am this intellect. So all this has the sense of that I amness. So before you can see, all of you, when you're seeing me, right? So when you see me, the other person, what is the first thought? Is it the first thought is about me, or is the first thought about you?
I see you.
Huh? I
see
see you, yeah. Anybody else? What is the first thought about you, or is that about me? Yeah, about you. Yeah. So this, you can try it out, you can experiment. Not just me, I'm saying anything else. Huh? You see any object or anything. No matter how much you can kind of think about others and other things, the first thought we have is this, what is called as this I am thought. So you can try this when you wake up. Even before you realize that, oh, okay, I'm here, I'm in my room, or I'm seeing the room. That first thought, what is that first thought that comes? And this is that what we say, the I am thought, the subject thought. So the quest that Ramana Maharshi asked us to do, or the Vedanta is asking us to do, is that to look into this I am thought. Where does it arise? What is its true nature? Now you may say that, how does it help me? What is the value of that? I have too many other things to do. I have to think about my work, or maybe I have to think about my health, or whatever it is. Of course, those of you who come here might have some interest, but generally, you might wonder, what is the use of this? Knowing who I am it may seem like something that we do in our spare time. But mostly what happens is, without knowing who we are, most of our activities, most of our pursuits, is in this quest. So what we're trying to do in all our activities, as we go about in our day, what we're really trying to seek is that kind of knowing that completeness of myself. Why? Because, see, one of the biggest problems that we see in the world today, and this is what Mother Teresa said, when she went to the West, she saw that, she said something like, even more than the great need for food, many people are dying out of loneliness, what we call as the sense of incompleteness. And what is the sense of loneliness or incompleteness? It is that what drives us to seek after things, after people, after pleasures. We feel that when I get that object or that person or that job or whatever it is, I will be complete. Why is that sense of incompleteness in us? Because we start from this base identity that I am this limited body or I am this limited mind. And then what happens, then all these other things are there in the world. So I need something else that will complete me. And so when we don't really know the true nature of our being, then what happens is we are trying to look for ourselves in other things, other people, and other situations. And this is the constant quest, the quest of seeking who I am. Now, it may seem like, again, that this, in case if it seems a little theoretical, one of the practical ways of testing this is that think of a time when you had achieved some goal in your life, something that made you feel happy, something that you felt like, okay, I have achieved this. Right? Now that object or whatever that you achieved. So, like as they say, the person who gets the most number of grand slams or scores the most number of centuries or becomes the greatest movie star and all that. After a while, that feeling goes away. Why? Because that is dependent on something external. They had something external that made them feel complete, isn't it? And that thing will change in that nature, or your feeling towards that might change. So the sense of what we call as relation with the world. So this is like, in a much more simpler way, we say relation with people. So why sometimes, like people are not happy with the relationship, then they change and all that. That is also based on not really knowing that sense of who I am. Because of our incompleteness, we kind of feel that somebody or something is no longer able to complete me. So this constant kind of instability within myself, within ourselves, comes mainly because we limit ourselves to this body, to this mind. Then what happens? I need somebody to physically complete me, or emotionally or mentally complete me. And this is that pursuit of the world, constantly, that all of us are engaged in. So this, what I was trying to say, the first thought we have is this thought of I amness. And yet, what happens? We don't observe it. Why? Because we are interested with that this or that thought that precedes that follows that. The moment the I am thought comes, it is followed by this thought, that thought. So bringing that mind back from that objects, this, that, people, situations, to that first thought, that subjective thought, is the first step in this practice, in this understanding. So it is not something that you need to do like years and years of practice. Like, for example, if you need to master a certain pose, you have to work at it for days. But this understanding can be instantaneous once we get it. And it can be so transformative that we start seeing the benefits in our life right away. Okay, so I can go on, but I will open up for questions. So before we do that, we'll just do one little exercise. Okay, you can just sit comfortably. And the first is, we'll just try to get a sense of the body. You can just try to become aware of the body and try to become aware either of the sensations of the body or the breath. And try to see that who is it that is aware of the sensations, or who is it that's aware of the breathing. So is that the one who is observing the breathing the same as the one who is the breath itself? Or is there a separate observer of the breath? Now you can just raise your hands. If you would like to keep your eyes closed, that's fine. You can lift your hands and move your hands a little up and down. And then try to see that if you can be aware that the hand is moving, that sensation of the hand moving. So you can try to see that movement of the hand. And now try to feel the energy. Forget the physical part of the body. And try to feel there's an energy that's moving in the body, that's allowing your hands to move. And this energy is something that is different from the body. Now, what is it that's aware of this energy? Or who is it that's aware of the energy? Now think of one of your favorite spots, either the Ganga or the mountains or some garden, some island. Now in being aware of the thoughts, being aware of that place, try to see that if you can change that to another spot, another time. Maybe just this morning if you walk to the Ganga, or late evening, if you kind of saw the mountains. Now between these two different visual imaginations, the one who is aware of both of them, the one who is aware of both these things, is that image the same as the one, or is it different? So this is trying to get to the root of who I am. And now gently take a couple of deep breaths and just relax. In one of the texts of which is called the famous text of Bhagavad Gita, it is said that Najayate mriyate va kadachin nayam bhutva pavito va nabhuya. So the soul or the self is never born, it never dies. There was never a time when it was not there. And it says that it cannot be pierced by a sword. It cannot be burned by fire. So this knowing of our true selves, that teachings which was given by Lord Krishna to Arjuna, when he wanted to go on the battlefield, was to know that the body has such never dies. I mean, the body might die, but the soul in that body might never die. But at the same time, that body which we identify ourselves, there is a subtler body which doesn't die, even when the physical body dies. So this is a second layer of teaching, to move from the physical body to the subtle body, and then slowly to move from that subtle body to our true self. So the initial practices which we learn, many of us learn in the yoga, is to connect with the subtle body, what we call as the energy body. And at this level of body, we say that there was a future life, past life. Why? Because the body goes through, that subtle body goes through transmigration, life after life. Okay. So the first step in spirituality, in which many religions and all of that teaches, is to connect to this subtle body. Why? Because this subtle body needs to be purified. And this is where, in the early parts of the Vedas, there are a lot of rites, rituals, and all that given, through which one can purify the subtle body. And by doing good deeds, by yajnas, homas, and all that, But if you take that alone as the teachings, then we will not come to this point of what I was saying as fulfillment, knowing your true self, completeness. We will still remain incomplete. Why? Because that subtle body will always look for something to complete itself. Even in Indian traditions, like those of us who grew up, we knew that. They say when you marry for 7 lives, So that is again like that relation or something is purified over 7 lives, right? But that itself will not give you that sense of completion. Nor will that sense of achievement, any one achievement in one life. They say that before one becomes, say, one of the best in any field, like sports or anything, he has made attempts in several lives to get to that. So let's say the famous, the biggest movie star, Amitabh Bachchan, Leonardo DiCaprio, whoever, So in order to be that, they have harbored that desire for many lives. Why? Because that subtle body generates that energy in many lives, and it ultimately manifests itself. But yet we know that many of them, even after reaching them, they have not reached that complete happiness, complete fulfillment. Why? Because they still lack this basic understanding of who they are at the very core. So the first step in knowing ourselves is a very simple step. It is to move from every object thought to subject thought. Every this and that thought, like I hear the sound, my mind immediately goes to that sound, and that is followed by another thought, a narration. I like it, I don't like it, and all that. So my mind is constantly involved with these things. So all my experiences are tainted with the sense of what we call as ragadvesha, likes and dislikes. So everything I'm qualifying constantly. So it doesn't allow me to step out of that to the sense of pure I amness. So the more we can inquire into this, and this was the quest of Ramana Maharshi, and I'll just say this and we can move to the questions. After the exploration, when Ramana Maharshi engaged in that who am I exercise, he stayed in many days in that state of trance because he lost that sense of objective world completely, that pure subjective self, And they say that they were like rodents and all that would come and eat at his legs, where he was sitting, but yet he remained unaffected by any of that. Of course, later on, he was able to keep that state while interacting with the world. And that was his main teaching, that you don't necessarily need to sit in a cloistered environment all the time. But the main thing that as he grew to that experience is this teachings of Advaita Vedanta, which says that nature of our consciousness, the nature of who we are, is qualified or is defined by these three words, which we call as Sat, Chit, Ananda. Sat is it's ever existing. Chit is ever conscious, the sense of pure consciousness. And then Ananda, that sense of joy or happiness. That comes. So this sense of I am as I am, the sense of our true self, is also the sense of what we call as this substratum of this whole world, what we define as God and all this, the sense of pure consciousness. Okay, so we can take any questions, any thoughts, any comments people have. Feel free to, since it's a small group, any of you can feel free to ask any questions. Yes, please. Yeah. Just use the mic.
So, how to say that? Is it necessary to practice the inquiry? When I do it, sometimes I feel like I'm detached and with no thoughts. Then it comes back. So it is necessary to purify the subtle body and the mind, or it's like doing the inquiry more and more will purify it by itself.
Yeah, very good question. I think so. There are two approaches. One is that, as you mentioned, the one approach is what is called as purification of that mind and subtle body, And this is where all the yogic practices and also a lot of other devotional practices are all aimed towards that. Now the question is, will that by itself purify us? Will the subtle body, or what we call as just as part of purify going through all these processes necessary for the inquiry or not? So it's, in real sense, when you come to this teaching, when you feel connected to this teaching, if you feel this resonates for you, you don't necessarily need to do that. Okay, but yet at the same time, you can take some practices. So this is what we call as one is the development practice to get you to this. So many people, sometimes don't connect to these teachings. So then for them, what we do is we tell them, you do the mantra, you do yoga, you do devotion, and all these different paths, But if you're able to connect into this inquiry in the sense, just if you're able to connect to your true being, doesn't need for some people. So here again, there are three ways. One is, for some people, it is an intellectual thing. They have to understand, they have to put their mind across that, and then they're able to relate to that. For some others, it's more of a feeling. They're able to abide in that sense of this pure sense of I am. And again, there are different means and different personalities and all that. But to answer your question again, this inquiry itself is a purification. The more you diligently go through this process of inquiry, but it's a little helpful to have a teacher or have somebody who guides you through that, because after a while, you will at some points hit a dead end. We say two things. We say the scriptures and the teacher, especially the non-dual scriptures such as Vedanta and all that. That is helpful, and the teacher. So sometimes the teacher does recommend you to do some practices, some mantras or some things. They might recommend that. But they will tell you from this highest point. It is not like you have to do something to get to this. Like you're already in that state, and from there you do a purification. So that is a different kind of purification. The purification you do to recognize the self, that is first kind. The second is that once you recognize the true self, to abide in that true self is a second kind of purification. And there, inquiry itself is adequate, but it is aided by some other practices. Is that? Anybody else? So you can ask, feel free to, any one of you, since comments. Were you all able to connect to some of this? Yeah. So there are different parts of this teaching. So the plan was to go through, each session, different aspects of this. So today we talked about from the perspective of the 5 sheets, the 5 coverings. I include grace through that. Maybe next 1 or 2 sessions we will go through what is called as the different states of our activities, so different states of our consciousness, meaning the waking, sleeping, dreaming. This is one other way of recognizing that true self. And then there is also other methods, what we call as nitya, that which is permanent and impermanent. And this was very common in the Buddhist teachings, the changing nature of the world. They say that everything in the world is changing constantly. And the body, the world, the thoughts, the feelings, everything is constantly changing, momentarily. Kshanikam. Sarvam kshanikam. Everything is momentary. But there's something that stays. There's something that is able to become aware of this. And what is that? So these are different methodologies. So we will try to see if we can cover that in each of the sessions.
So my question, if there is just one way to stop being born in a body and just being an eternal soul. I feel like my spiritual journey took me into this yogic lifestyle and knowledge. And while I'm experiencing that kind of lifestyle and knowledge, I had a vision, and that vision took me to a whole different path, which is to the Jew Bible. And that days I'm learning such a little about the Vedas, and there is so many things, so many stories that I can that these stories is kind of parallel to stories that I've learned as a kid in school and stuff about the Jew Bible.
It's your Bible.
I'm Jewish.
Oh, Jewish.
So,
Okay.
So it feels like there is one truth which a few smart people or purified souls that have recognized that truth, and they are sharing that truth in a different way all around the world. If it's as Buddhas
Yes.
or as Rabbi.
Right.
Yeah, so that's my question. If there is just like one path, or it can be different beliefs that kind of saying the same things, just in different kind of stories.
So, just in one of the way to look at it is that, as I was talking about this Bhagavad Gita text, like it is mentioned there that as people seek truth or God, according to their inclination, that specific inclination is strengthened in them. So, to put it in other words, that if I have a certain belief, or if I'm drawn to a certain belief, one is that I have had some connection with that has drawn me to that. Second is that I have a choice whether to continue specifically with that and see that it takes me to that highest kind of truth, as you mentioned, that ultimate aspect. So if you really see the essence of most paths, they have two approaches. One is that where they talk about that highest truth, but yet there is a compromised version in most of that religious and different paths also, spiritual paths. So we can get to that truth, ultimate truth, by walking any path, walking any kind of path. But that journey can be longer, or what I mean by longer is that journey may not instantly bring us to this realization. So here is where we call as the path which comes from, which kind of takes you all the way to the top of the mountain, Or there is another path where you kind of start from that mountain itself, as he was asking, you start from the top of that mountain itself, and then just try to stay in there, So to make it a little simpler, if we are finding that state of inner happiness, that state of peace, then consistently, and we are able to abide in that, despite whatever is happening in our life. So most spiritual paths are designed to first, we got drawn to spiritual path because we were looking for some pleasurable, positive experience in the world, and now we are looking at it in a spiritual path. So this is the first reason why many of us come. Because we realize somehow that what I'm looking in the world is not going to bring me complete happiness. So we look for that same kind of joy in the through the spiritual path. So initially what happens is when we are looking for the joy, we get some joy. Like even like being in this company, being in the fellowship of people, sometimes it's much more positive. But what happens is our life after a while will still bring us unpleasant experiences, negative experiences and all that. So the first step is that having good experiences, visions, or some kind of a high state, or some peace, or something, So that is what many of the paths initially bring us towards. So all paths are, you can say, equal at this level, where it brings us to some spiritual experience, some positive experience and all that. But slowly what happens is we have to know to that level that no matter what my life's experience is, am I able to remain as a unaffected by my life experiences? Am I able to get out of even this desire for a positive experience in the world? Meaning there is a higher level of what we start calling as positive. And in this step, there is only one path when you come to this kind of thing. And what is this path? And this is that where this, as I was saying, that you can call it in different ways, like knowing the self or knowing true nature and all that. But it's very simple thing that where the outer world and its experiences are no longer affecting you in your knowing of yourself. So this path is only one path, no matter what name we use for that, you know. So I don't know a lot to quote from the Jewish thing, but like in the Christian Bible, you know, like where they say that I and my Father are one. You know, see, all this is like very same language that is used in certain Vedic, Vedantic scriptures and all that. Of course, years before, and even when many things that Buddha said, and even in many other Indian religions, But the paths they promise, the paths they lead us to initially is different. The rituals may seem different, the outer forms may be different, the methodologies and beliefs may be different. Like me, I'm wearing a orange or red color cloth. Another monk might be wearing a other kind of thing in different paths. So that at the level of the ultimate truth, there is only one thing. At the level of relative truth in spiritual things, there can be different paths. And that we are drawn to based on our personality and our inclinations. But even in those paths, you see like many people yearning for that ultimate truth. And that ultimate truth is where there is no, you can't even like have a debate at that level of ultimate truth. And where you can say like this path is better or that path is better when you reach that point.
So my question is, if there is something, if I will be dedicated and if I will keep into the right path and I will find the right path and I will just keep do everything as it's supposed to be, will I be able to reach that goal, or my destination is already being right, like wrote, and there is nothing I can do to to get it?
Yeah, I mean, I would say I can try to answer you, but the best thing is you can read my book, Breaking Free from Karma, because those are the specific things that I addressed, So the concept that what we call as karma, the reincarnation and karma, it's based on that there is something in us that is propelling us to be born, and this is what the Buddha said when he reached that state of enlightenment. He said that I have seen you, the house builder, who through many lives was building houses for me again and again. He was referring to the bodies, the different bodies that was taking, was happening. Meaning that I have seen you, the house builder, who is building these houses. Meaning he was referring to this, what we call as the karma, or the storage of karma, which propels us to be born again and again and again, to have different experiences. So this is that topic that I tell, do we have a choice? Can we break free from it? Can we stop this cycle of reincarnation? Or do I have no choice, that I have to fulfill whatever I have come here to do? This is another version many people say, right? that there is a mission in this life, why I was born, what I have to do, and unless I complete that, life, or rather I will not gain emancipation. So it is true that life has a purpose. There is certain storage of karma that has kept us bound, and that we keep taking birth again and again. So this life is prepared like a lot of our actions. So if you really think about it, did you have a choice on where or to whom were you born? Did you have a choice? Like did you have a choice in what kind of job you do, right? Like today, whether you'll be here in Rishikesh or whether you will go somewhere, you have a choice. But did you have a choice where you were born? Or what circumstances you were born in? Right? You did, right? And all that kind of conditioning it came with. You didn't have a choice because that. So this is what we say, how these conditioning, this is part of what karma propels us to do. And to a lot of these things, we don't have a choice. And they say that even our thoughts, many of our thoughts are conditioned. So even this present thing where we all are seated, we may say that to some people may debate and say that did we have a choice? You may say that I chose to come here. But in some kind of other kind of thinking, we can say that no, you didn't have a choice. There was some karmic connection that brought you here. So these are all different perspectives on that. But the ultimate question is that are we bound by karma, or are we bound by something that unless we complete that, our mission in life will remain incomplete? In one way, it is true that we have to work towards we have to fulfill whatever duties we have in life, whatever things that we are driven to. But the sense of inquiring about ourselves, the sense of finding our real purpose in life, that is not something that is, nothing can prohibit us from doing that. That is that act of what we can say is a free will we have. Whether we choose to discover our true being or not. All other things in life, what circumstances, we say even like where you will be born or whom, what kind of job you will be done. See, all these are our, what we call as our karmic duties. There is a force that propels us, that takes us in that direction. But for those wise people who even when the force is directing them are aware, are become wise, are conscious, they slowly learn to step out of it. Then what happens is their actions don't have that same investment, So that further creation of karma stops, and also that present force of karma also decreases. So this is also in one way, like we say when it's like a, have you ever, anyone had a lucid dream? When you're dreaming, you just kind of woke up and you're aware you're dreaming, So when you realize that when you have a lucid dream, that content of the dream will continue, will linger for a while, But somehow you start remaining unaffected by that. In the sense you're aware that you are conversing or you are doing something there, but yet you realize that that kind of emotions or that desire or that fear somehow is not that same. You still kind of act out in the dream, but you remain a little away from it. So that eventually is how that karmic force loosens its grip. And this is what we call waking up in our life. waking up in our waking state itself, becoming conscious in our waking state. And so here what happens is there are two ways to fulfill karma. One is you act out whatever the karma thing has brought you, whatever circumstances, wherever you are, whatever you have to fulfill, whatever experiences you have to go through, you go through that. The other way is that you slowly become aware through wisdom, through understanding, and through spiritual practices that one who is going through this is not also the real you. What we call that subtle body is also not the real you. So that subtle body, which is bound by karma, is not really the essence of who you are, and that is the ultimate freedom.
Isn't the purpose of being born as a human is ultimately to get free from this cycle of incarnation? If they call it consciousness, this intellect, and it's only possible as a human to get free from the cycle. So isn't the purpose and destiny for all humans?
Yes, yeah. That's also a good point. So when we are born as a human being, we have what is called, this is what I was trying to say, the fourth faculty of Vijnanamaya Kosha, Unlike many animals, who don't have the same, this is what is called as this ability of self-reflexivity. Like a, when, like for example, maybe you just can hold your hand up, and then you just try to maybe feel that you are looking out first. You hold your hand outward like that. You are looking out. Everyone can try this. You just feel like as your palm is directed outwards, you are looking outward, right? So your eyes are looking outward. Now, slowly try this experiment where you can turn your hand inward and feel that as the hand is turned inward, you are looking at yourself. You're becoming aware of the one who is seeing. So once more try this, where you point your hand outward. You bring your hand palm in and try to see, you become aware of yourself. One more time, see outside and feel that you're looking out and experiencing through the senses all the objects you're perceiving. And then now turn the hand in and try to see you're becoming aware of yourself. So this is what, as humans we are capable of. We are able to look into the nature of ourselves and subject yourself, Animals and other beings don't have this ability. Like when what we call as introspection and all that also, So we are not able to reflect on ourselves. Animals and all, so we have this ability. So the greatest purpose of a human being, the greatest purpose of our human life is this ability to understand ourselves in that sense that we are able to break free from all these identifications. So the human life has such the highest goal, I think, as you were mentioning, like as religions we say this is the goal and that is the goal and all that. That is all true. But that is all very relative. At the ultimate level, the highest level is to the highest purpose or the highest potential of the human life is this ability to discover ourselves and the highest happiness with that. Because when we discover our true self, we also discover the highest happiness. Otherwise, we discover all kind of relative level of happiness, which we will be engaged in for a while, but it will never complete us. So initially it is okay. We can still pursue our habits, or our passions, our desires, and all that. But you will slowly realize that the real fulfillment, even in seeking your passions, in all things you do, is when you realize this true being, your true self. Then what happens? Even that what you do outside, you will find a better kind of fulfillment in the relationships and everything that we have. You'll also be able to have a better kind of contentment with that. Okay, so we will. Yeah. Okay, so we will say. I'll just let's just take a minute, and we will say a prayer for all of us, that we might, as some of you said, we might find that fulfillment from all our lives and find that true being. So we just take a minute and just internalize that intention. Internalize that may you find that deeper fulfillment in our life. Alright, so I'm just going to say a prayer, and you can, if you're aware, you can join me. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Okay, thank you all. I appreciate that all of you make this time and effort. And the fact that all of you are able to sit through this shows that you have had this past life's inclination to be able to connect to this.